Hello, welcome to When the Smoke Clears. I am the Recovery Plug. What's happening, man? Hope you guys are doing great today. I know my day is going just fine. Check this out. You know how I always like to get my video podcast started, always with a moment of silence followed by the serenity prayer for the addict who still suffers and for those of us who are still bound down to some sort of struggle that keeps us, from moving forward in this toxic life that we live in, right? So yeah, if you would, please join me in a moment of silence. God, grant me serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, wisdom to know the difference. All right. Well, now that we got that squared out of the way, check this out, man. I got something for you guys today that I want to talk about. It's something that it's one of these peer support groups that I attend through the VA. And, I like going to those things because they have a lot of sometimes they have these exercises that we do or just different types of things, right? And just depending on what group I'm going to, there's always something good. There's always nuggets, man, that the good nuggets that you can pull out, out of those peer support groups, man, and load up your recovery arsenal. That's what I call it, man. You know what I mean? And loading up my recovery arsenal is, has been one of those things that has actually been really helpful for me in my journey because it allows me to take a lot of different things from different places, from different communities, from different, things that I involve myself in and incorporate the things that resonate with me and bring them into my own personal life. And therefore I get this recovery arsenal and now I can, deal with what I need to deal with my suffering, you know what I'm saying? And then in turn there I get to, it manifests more ideas and ways of thinking for me that I can share with you guys, you know what I'm saying? So it's cool, man. I like that. I like the whole journey of my spirituality and where it's going and the things that I'm involving myself in and how it helps me in my life. And I believe that, if it helps me, man, you know what, it could probably help somebody else. So that's the whole, point of or the whole purpose that I like doing my video podcast is to relay messages, you know what I'm saying? Because everybody needs to hear a message, man. And hopefully today's topic is the message you need to hear, man. So yeah. But anyway, I'm gonna do is take these shades off right here because I can't look cool all the time, right? But I gotta put these on, man. And so check this out, man. This is what Hound at that I got at one of the groups that I went to, and was really cool, man, because they it allowed me to understand a little bit of something that maybe I had forgotten about. You know what I mean? In my journey and the way and the way I pursue my recovery. You know what I'm saying? Anyway. And this topic today is called radical acceptance. And what it says here, it says when you cannot keep painful events and emotions from coming your way. In other words, it's like you're in this tsunami type thing, and there's nothing, no matter what you do, man. When that tsunami comes, it comes, and you can't stop it. You know what I'm saying? And that present moment of the here and now, dealing with that, adversity, dealing with those emotions, dealing with that painful event or whatever, you know what I mean? And, for a lot of us, it could be devastating, you know what I mean? It could be something that is, it could be a blow that's hard to get out of, you know what I'm saying? And trust me, man, I've been through quite a few blows in my life that, I was there for a minute, man. It just didn't seem like, hey, man, I guess this is it right here. You know what I mean? But anyway, okay, so this thing got a question here that says, what is radical acceptance? And it says, number one, radical means all the way, complete and total. It is accepting in your mind, your heart, and your body. And the third thing it says, it's when you stop fighting reality, stop throwing tantrums because reality is not the way you want it, and let go of the bitterness. Now let's stop and think about that for a minute, man. You know what? What it says there, radical means all the way, complete and total. You know what I mean? What it makes me think, what it makes me think of is right away is like, man, you know what? When I was in the dark world, what I call it, you know what I mean? The world of addiction, the world of dealing with PTSD, childhood traumatic experience, all that kind of stuff, right? And, you know, I was in it all the way, you know what I mean? I wasn't in it halfway, you know what I'm saying? You know, when I would, you know, for me, it was all the way. And then it says it is accepting in your mind and your heart and your body. And I could remember at one point thinking, man, okay, I guess this is it. You know what I mean? I guess I'm going to just be doing this for the rest of my life or whatever, right? That's how bad that the events came and closed up that thought process. You know what I mean? Because that happens. You got to be very careful with that, because that happens, man. When you get these painful events and emotions, and you can't, there's nothing that you can do about it. They just come in this total tidal wave. You know, it's having to accept in your mind, in your heart, and in your body that, okay, this is what it is, and I'm gonna have to either weather the storm or, you know, let the storm consume me. You know what I mean? And at the bottom down there, it says, it's when you stop fighting reality, stop throwing tantrums because reality is not the way you want it, and let go of bitterness. You know, for me, a lot of the time, man, I was thinking, man, I'm in this mess because, you know, COVID came, I lost my home, I lost my business, and, you know, a contractor didn't pay me, and, you know, just all these excuses that I used as a crutch to maintain that bowl of misery. You know what I'm saying? And I stayed in that tidal wave that came of those events that were painful and emotional in one way, shape, or form or the other. And it took a while for me to get out of that. And you know, the next question here that says, what has to be accepted? And it says, reality is as it is. The facts about the past and the present are the facts, even if you don't like them. Number 2, there are limitations on the future for everyone, but only realistic limitations need to be accepted. And everything has a cause, including events and situations that cause you pain and suffering. Life can be worth living even with painful events in it. And you know what? That's one thing, man, that, you know, the way it said there that reality is as it is, the facts about the past, present, and the past and the present are the facts, even if you don't like them. And you know what? That was one of the things that was so hard to do, that, and it's so blinding, you know what I mean? Because it gets your mind distorted in a sense, because you're thinking about all the stuff that happened, and then you're thinking about the stuff that you want to happen, and you catch yourself in this mental thought process of things that don't exist. You know what I mean? That's the turmoil, man. That's the chains keeping you bound down to that toxic world, because it has your mentality thinking this way. And when you're thinking of something in the past and something in the future, you're thinking of non-existent things. They don't exist. And you forget about the here and now. And the here and now is you in this pit of misery, or this pit of painful stuff, or this pit of emotional roller coaster. And until you get to that mentality to say, okay, well, I guess we got to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? That is the radical acceptance. You're accepting this thing that, fine, okay, well, I'm going to have to deal with it one way or another, right? And it says, life can be worth living even with painful events. And that, you know what, that's so true, because even though all of that stuff happened, even though I've gone through all kinds of adversities, all kinds of trauma, and just different things that brought in this mental thought process of depression, of anger, of sadness, of grief, of just of not of just even not even wanting to live. You know what I mean? And finding a way to live with it. And for a long time, for me, the way I lived with it was by trying to mask those emotions and those feelings and not deal with them. And that was, behind the use of drugs and, that sort of thing. So it can get very, it can get very, the water can get really muddy, man, and you can't see a darn thing, you know what I mean? And except the misery, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's what has to be accepted is just that, you know what I mean? And the next question here, it says, why accept reality? It says, rejecting reality does not change reality. It says, changing reality requires first accepting reality. It says, pain can't be avoided. It is nature's way of signaling that something is wrong. It says, rejecting reality turns pain into suffering. Refusing to accept reality can keep you stuck in unhappiness, bitterness, anger, sadness, shame, or other painful emotions. Acceptance may lead to sadness, but deep calmness usually follows. The path out of hell is through the misery. By refusing to accept the misery that is part of climbing out of hell, you fall back into hell. And man, you know what? That is so true, because until I decided in my personal journey to accept the fact that all of these things had happened to me, and there's no way that I can change any of that. You know what I mean? I might think that I can change that in the thought process by masking them by doing, drugs or whatever, but in reality, at the end of the day, you're still suffering with that. And like I've mentioned many times in my videos and in some of my peer support groups, is that 99% of the time, the answer to getting out of the misery is in the misery. So you're going to have to bathe yourself in this misery, whether you like it or not. You're going to have to get dirty. You're going to have to get in the trenches and figure it out. You know what I mean? You're going to have to weather the storm. There's going to be a storm, man. This is all cause and effect. You know what I mean? This comes to me. It reminds me of Hermetic wisdom, bro. You know what I mean? Hermetic wisdom is powerful. You know what I mean? If something swings to the left, it's got to swing to the right. You know what I mean? If there's light somewhere, there's going to be darkness. You know what I mean? And the thing is that the suffering is the cycles of suffering that I've gone through were never permanent. You know what I mean? Everything's impermanence, right? And it's like it's gonna last for a minute. There's and everything, every part of that suffering lasts for a while. You know what I'm saying? And it depends. And this is just my opinion on your mental thought process on how long that suffering lasts. Because if you can get it out of here and here, then you can move on. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that you don't have it anymore. It just means that you're willing to accept it and figure a way out to live with it. You know what I mean? And for me, that just happened to be living a spiritual life. For me, spirituality was what took all of that misery and carried it for me. You know what I mean? Now, I can walk free today. I can talk freely today. I can move around. I can engage. I can talk about all those adversities because I don't carry them with me. You know what I mean? And that to me is so liberating. You know what I'm saying? Because I know that they're there. I know that I got this disease and that it could just surface up at any moment if I allow it in my subconscious mind. And that, my friends, is the most powerful gift I believe that we have as human beings. Is the power of free will. We are the ones who allow things into the subconscious mind. In turn, there you get these negative actions or positive actions, whatever it is, right? That's how that works. And you know, we can, because we, in our conscious mind, we think all the time, right? We think all the time. And these things come and go. All these thoughts come and go. You think of thoughts all day long, right? And the ones that stick into your head and make you start feeling a certain way, or you start acting out a certain way, are the ones that you allowed into your subconscious mind. You picked that up and said, okay, here, take it. Now let's run with it. See what kind of actions I get out of this thought process right here. And for me, man, when I was in the world of darkness, man, it was always a bunch of negative and crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying? I stayed in the world of addiction, you know what I mean? Drugs, and it's, you know, doing drugs and selling drugs, and that whole lifestyle was just a whirlwind of misery. There's nothing ever good came out of that. You know what I mean? No matter how long I stayed away and then relapsed and went back, it was always in another spot that was worse than when I left. You know what I mean? And then the emotional roller coaster was even worse than where I left, where I thought I left it. You know what I mean? And so that's just me throwing more of those emotional things in that backpack that I carried for a long time. And just here, I'm just going to leave it back here and not deal with it. And you know, sometime I'm going to have to unload that bag and see what's in there, see what's bothering me, and why can't I move forward in my life? I got this big old freaking backpack with all these emotional freaking things that happened to me since I was a kid, and I don't know how to deal with it. So I'm gonna have to start looking in here and see what I can, you know, let out. You know what I mean? And it's just doing an inventory, right? It's just doing an inventory. But being able to accept that kind of stuff in a radical sense is pretty hard to do. You know what I'm saying? It's doable. You just have to be compassionate. You got to be vulnerable. You got to allow yourself to be, you know, open-minded, willing, and truthful to seeking something new, something better. You know what I mean? And so another thing that I just got here, it says radical acceptance, factors that interfere. It says radical acceptance is not approval, compassion, love, passivity, or against change. It says the factors that interfere with acceptance is, number one, you don't have the skills for acceptance. You do not know how to accept really painful events and facts. It says you believe that if you accept a painful event, you are making light of it or are approving of the facts, and that nothing will be done to change or prevent future painful events. It also says emotions get in the way, unbearable sadness, anger, and the person or group that caused the pain event, rage and injustice of the world, overwhelming shame about who you are, guilt about your own behavior. And, you know, there's a lot of things that come up that block you from accepting that radical, you know, event that came up all of a sudden. You know what I'm saying? That okay, you know, because sometimes the adversity seemed to be something that has been nurtured for a long time, and then it gradually got worse, and now you just, it was a distortion that you didn't even see, and now you think that, oh, this thing just happened to come all of a sudden. But in reality, it's been happening because you've been doing these little bitty things along the way to, you know, make it into a big thing. You know what I'm saying? So it can get distorted there for you trying to accept the fact that, hey, you know what, I need change, or you know, I got to deal with it. You know what I mean? And how do I deal with it? Because that's another thing, is that a lot of, you know, once you get into this think like, okay, well, I've been like this for a long time. I'm not going to change. You know what I mean? But for some of us, it gets distorted like that, and it's unfortunate because a lot of those kind of people, they wind up never getting out. You know what I'm saying? And it says here is that practicing radical acceptance step by step. It says, observe that you are questioning or fighting reality. It shouldn't be this way. Remind yourself that the unpleasant reality is just as it is and cannot be changed. Remind yourself that there are causes for the reality. Practice accepting with the whole self, mind, body, and spirit. Be creative in finding ways to involve your whole self. Use accepting self-talk, but also consider using relaxation, mindfulness of your breath. Half smiling and willing hands while thinking about what feels unacceptable. Prayer, going to a place that helps bring you to acceptance or imagery. It says practice opposite action. Cope ahead with events that seem unacceptable. Attend to body sensations as you think about what you need to accept. Allow disappointment, sadness, or grief to arise within you. Acknowledge that life can be worth living even when there is pain. Do pros and cons if you find yourself resisting practicing acceptance. You know what I mean? And this part here that says that practicing acceptance with the whole self, mind, body, and soul, is to me one of the greatest things that I have done in my recovery and in my journey, because I've involved this whole spiritual movement to consume me and allowed this spiritual and divine energy to take hold of all of the radical things that happen. You know what I'm saying? And it's helped me to accept all of that stuff. You know what I mean? And to practice and to be creative in finding ways to involve the whole self. Like I've involved myself in peer support groups that I go to through the VA. I do music therapy through the VA. I do sometimes I go to NA meetings. I'll do Alcoholic Anonymous meetings. I do Dharma recovery meetings, and I go to and practice with the Bhakti Yoga Center and practice the yoga and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, which has been very helpful, man. And on my time here, when I'm at home, I'll practice the Hare Krishna mantras, and then I'll do the Om mantras meditation, and I even incorporated the cold plunging. That's really been helpful for me to focus. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of things that I've been involving myself in, and also practicing with my brothers and sisters over at the Buddhist Center. Like I just came from there today. I had a Spanish segment that we do. A class on Buddhist teachings, and it's in Spanish, and I go and I attend there to help out and to learn, more about just spirituality, man. And since I've been on this spiritual journey, man, my life has changed, man. You know what I mean? And I've been able to accept that radical, distress, this tolerance of distress, this suffering, you know what I mean? Because ultimately, that is, we go through a lot of suffering, man, all day long. We're suffering from something, and to find ways to live with that suffering and to alleviate some of it is very, very helpful, man. And I believe that just tapping into that spiritual journey is key, man, because we all have we all have the ability, you know what I mean, to do that. We all do, and we all have that connection to that divine energy, man. And it's up to oneself, you know what I mean? It's up to oneself to practice things that allow you to seek that energy out, because it's within you. You know what I mean? You and I have this power of this divine energy that we have stored in us that we can use and pick up at any time of the day. You know what I mean? That to me is it's like the secret weapon, you know what I mean, that we have. And that incorporating that energy with the beautiful tool that we have in that powerful tool that we have of free will, combining those two together is just, man, you can lead your life wherever you want to. And why not, if you have this power like that, why not lead it into a spiritual and beautiful life, man? You know what I mean? So I guess that's going to be it for today. I just wanted to share that with you guys, with the that radical acceptance, you know what I mean? And hopefully that you guys understood what I was talking about, and hopefully it helped somebody, man. Hopefully somebody needed to hear that today, you know what I mean? So I really am grateful that you guys keep watching my videos, man, and I hope that I still, you know, somebody needed to hear that, and that my energies touched your energies, and that, you know, it allows us to move forward together, man. And you know, thank you very much for watching the video. And again, if you would please hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, the bell, give me a comment. You know, just know that when you do that, man, you do hit that subscribe button, it'll cost you a thing, man. But you know what? You'll be helping out another veteran, another homeless person, another person dealing with PTSD, childhood traumatic experiences, drug addiction, alcoholism, depression, suicidal thoughts, anger issues, all those types of things, my friends, because I have dealt with all of those things at one point in time in my life. And guess what, man? I know a way out, and my way out could be your way out. So I guess until the next time, man, on When the Smoke Clears, I am the Recovery Plug.